Go. Okay. Are you guys ready? Mentally ready, even though it was super nice outside. Easily the longest fire drill we've ever had, but that was okay because it was really nice. Okay, so a relation. So a relation is when two types of numbers are associated together in any which way, which this is pretty much the definition of related, when two things are related. And there's absolutely a bunch of ways you can say this same information. Most of you guys probably think of the information as like a point. That's probably what you're most used to. But the information can be lots of different ways. Before we get to that, though, we've got domain and range. Domain is considered the x's, because a lot of you like writing things as x's and y's. So it's the x's, or information doesn't always take on numbers. So it is the input or the first piece of information. And then range is just the opposite. Range is the y's, so the second number, or the output. This chair doesn't sound too good. Do you guys even remember hearing this word before? Like, does this terminology sound familiar? Okay. For me, it really only matters in terms of how much you want me to explain to you from this information. Because that's the hard part about teaching a lot of review at the beginning here, like in chapter 1, is I don't know what you remember because the last year and a half have been kind of weird. So it's possible some of you remember almost nothing, and some of you probably remember it great. I mean, like, It seemed like distance teaching was very polarizing, where some people loved it and had no problems with it. Other people just had a really bad time. Like, that style of learning was not for them. So it just seemed very polarizing to me. Does anybody want me to leave this up there yet, or any longer? Okay. So I put some different examples of relations up there. Now that I'm looking at it from over here, it definitely looks like UST, but that's his list. So we've got the University of St. Thomas represented up there. Oops. And I'll give you a minute or two to write that down, and we'll talk about them. Good chance the mapping one is the one that you aren't familiar with at all. And that's pretty much most people. You know what, that fire drill makes this a 2 Mountain Dew morning. I got a lot of extra steps in. And if there's anything you can't read, feel free to ask. To be honest, I normally expect that there's something you can't read because I don't always write the best. Sometimes I write good, sometimes I don't. Do you guys ever get that? So, all throughout school, I found that I always had like two writing styles, where like I purposely try to go slow and nice and like write it so it's nice and neat, and then there's other times where it's just like it's like my brain kicks in like doctor scribble style, where I just write super fast and I'm the only one that can semi-read it. That happens a lot when I'm writing notes. Like there'll be times that I just don't even think about it. I just write something and you guys can't read it. I have a fantastic signature. I've perfected it over the years. That's very doctor-like. I'm very proud of it. You can't read it. It's very hard to copy it. The graph one on the left, who should we go with? We should go with, I want to pick somebody who hasn't been called on. Angelina, have you been called on yet? Perfect. Do you think you could help me out with the graph on the left-hand side? Can you remind us how to number the points? Do you remember? Maybe I'll ask that first. Do you remember how to number the points?
Like from the graph in the table?
Just the graph itself.
Oh, yeah, you just do the X and then Y.
Perfect. So the first number is the X, which would be left or right. Second number is the Y, which is up and down. So like that, let's pick the point in the middle that's on the line 1 up. So that would be the point 0, 1, because the first number you don't move left or right, but you do move up 1. And I think some of you might have needed that reminder, I don't know. I figured it'd been a good idea to do it. The way the mapping graph works is wherever there's an arrow, the beginning of the arrowhead is like your input or your X. So this would be the point -1, 0, -1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 0, 3, 2. So that's kind of how you read the maps. And in all practical purposes, I have never seen a mapping in real life. But I've noticed over the last handful of years that all of the new textbooks have them in them, and they're sometimes on the ACT and MCA. So I don't know if it's a case of maybe there's some profession that uses mapping diagrams a lot. Like I said, I've never seen them, but it's not like I'm an engineer or an analyst or anything like that either. So it's very possible that mapping diagrams are used quite a bit in some professions. I've just never seen them. Oh, who went again? Angelina went. Angelina, is there somebody you want to call on? Wait, no, let me rephrase that. Call on somebody. Wow, you went really far out of your comfort zone there. Thank you for choosing one desk away. Okay, Molly, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, domain and range is something that we have to find for all of these as well. Do you think you could tell me the domain for this picture? Because that's probably the hardest one. Or do you want me to start with an easier one?
I don't think I can do that.
You want me to do an easier one?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go with the table. What would be the domain of that table? Did you write down what domain was?
Yeah. Oh, it should be the X.
Perfect, that's it. So domain is the X's or inputs. So on this table, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3. And you would write the answer. Actually, now that I'm putting this up here, I don't think I did this last time. You would write it as a brace, and then you just list the numbers in order. So the domain for that one would be 0, 1, 2, 3. Can you call the next person, unless you want to keep going? Oh my God. Okay. I've already seen the pattern. I guess I'll follow it from here on. So it was Katie?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Katie, can you give me the domain for the graph? Because I want to do the graph because this is going to be the hardest one for most of you. These three, you just read the numbers.
0. Oh, just kidding. -1.
Just kidding, JK. Negative 1.
0, 1, 2.
Okay, perfect. Oh, that was bad. Generally, you go in order. It also doesn't matter if you write a duplicate. You don't have to write duplicates. So negative 1, negative 1. These are the x values, not the height. So negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Then when we go to list the range, you list the height. So then I would go bottom to top. So negative 1, 0, 1, I could write 1 twice if I wanted to. I don't because I'm lazy. So then that would be my range. And again, the graph is usually the hardest ones just because they're not obvious. But if you had to list the domain range from anything up there, is there somebody that might have a question on one of the 4 types of relations that maybe you wouldn't be sure how to figure out domain and range that you want me to talk about? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. A function. I'm sure you've heard this word as well. I would be awfully surprised if you remember what it is. A function is a specific type of relation where each input, or x, so each x has only one output, or y, associated with it. Now, hold off on, I'll wait there for a second for you to get it written down. What I would do if I were you is I would leave a little room to write a footnote. Because most people want to know what not a function looks like. It's easier to find something that's not a function than it is function. Easier to explain, maybe. So, if you're ready, something is not a function. I'm not going to put it up there. Something is not a function. Why you guys got your Chromebooks out? Something is not a function if one x value has more than one y value. And I can definitely repeat that. Yeah. So something is not a function if one x value has more than one y value. And functions, I know I mentioned x's and y's. Input and output is definitely the more preferred language for it, because functions is more than just numbers. Where if anybody here is thinking or interested in computer programming, right? Computer programming languages are built on functions. So let's do something relatable with a keyboard, like a computer. So on your keyboard, if you hit the letter K, you only want one thing to happen. You only want the letter K to result from hitting the letter K. So then that's considered a function, because if you keep hitting the letter K, it comes out as the letter K. It would not be a function if you hit the letter K. And then one time it was a K, a different time it was a J, different time it was an M, different time it was a S. That would not be a function, because one input would have multiple outputs. And I know somebody's gonna probably try to say some kind of loophole like hidden shift or something like that. But I hope you also know that hidden shift before a letter makes it a different key input. Yes, sir. Go for it. Okay, so now there definitely is a bunch of different types that we're gonna identify if they're functions or not. But what I wanna start with is a graph. So there's a specific one that's called the vertical line test. I know you've done Algebra 1, again, it was 2 years ago, so I don't know if you even remember this at all. So let me actually draw a vertical line. So the vertical line test is when you take your finger or pencil and you move it along on a piece of paper or screen or whatever you have something on. And if your finger or pencil or line crosses twice at any time, something is not a function. So this one, oh boy, that's the wrong one. This one, we would say that this passes the vertical line test because it never crosses more than once. So we would say this passes the vertical line test, and this would be a function. The second one, multiple locations, your line would cross more than once. So there's 2 dots right here that it hits at the same time. There's 2 dots right there that it hits at the same time. So we would refer to this as failing the vertical line test. Now this would mean this is not a function. So if you're trying to determine something is a function by a picture, you use the vertical line test. And I realize some of you will physically take your pencil and go like this. I would say 95% of you probably would just do that in your mind. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just look at a picture and you try to find if that picture is above itself anywhere. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. I can definitely see a question.
Me?
Yeah.
I just was confused. So when you put the line in the first one, it passes
Because I never touched more than one spot.
Oh, okay.
So on the second one, I kind of left it where there's those 2 red dots above each other.
Yeah.
So because it hit twice at any spot, it failed.
Twice in any of the dots?
If the line touches twice at the same time.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, that's usually what it will look like when it fails. I don't know. There's a bunch, I guess they can look any which way, but,
okay, thank you.
yeah. Any kind of questions? You guys are very super quiet. Okay. I'll give you a minute to write these down. And then, yeah, we are on Katie. Katie's gonna choose somebody that is more than a desk away.
Do you want to pick now?
No, I want them to be nervous.
Okay.
Actually, if somebody knows ahead of time, they usually get more nervous. I take it you have somebody in mind though, huh? If you don't know their name, you can just kind of point to them. Okay, okay. Time do we get done? 15? Yeah, 10:15 we get done. We're good. Yeah. We'll have probably time to try a couple together if you want. Okay, Katie, who's gonna be the first person to go over the, question? Yeah. Who's gonna be the person to help us with the two graphs?
Ella.
Ella, where's Ella?
Front row.
Okay, isn't this the one that has multiple Ellas?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, is there? We've got Ella, we've got Emma. Oh, we've got 3 Emmas, but you're the only Ella. Okay, do you want me to guide you through those pictures and all, or do you kind of remember how to use the vertical line test?
I remember the vertical.
Okay. So how about this picture on the left with this is a parabola, but, whatever. Is that a function?
Yes, it passes.
Okay, perfect. This passes, so this is a function. Because if I hold a straight vertical line, it never touches twice. Okay, how about the second one?
No.
Not a function. Now, the second one actually is kind of a detail, I guess. But like say, right, that is the worst color I could have chosen. If I draw a straight line up and down on that second one right there, it touches both those points. If one of these points was an open circle, so there could be details that make this confusing. If one of these was an open circle, this would be a function. Because you might get an example like that. Okay, nice job. Is there somebody you want to call in? No, I'm not gonna pretend that. What was the name again? Cole. Okay, Cole, is there one you want to pick? I'll just let you choose the one you think is easiest for you, maybe.
The table.
Right here. Okay, is this a function?
No.
Okay, how come?
Because there's more than one y value. Wait.
The 3?
Actually,
Yep. How about this? So that one will be a function, but honestly, I wrote that purposely because it can be confusing. Let me go to the one in the upper right and talk about why the one in the upper right is not a function. This one is. But I purposely wrote these 3s because that can be confusing. In the upper right, how about, can anybody tell me why this one is not a function?
Because we have 2 of the same x values.
Sort of true.
1 can be 3 and 4.
Perfect. So it's actually okay to have 2 of the same x values. You just can't have 2 different y values. Because you're actually going to get some examples where it might say 1, 3, 1, 3. And that's actually okay. You can have duplicates. But the fact that one has a 3 associated with it and one has a 4 associated with it makes this not a function. This is the only situation you can't have. So it's usually harder for most people to explain why something is a function. It's easier to explain why something isn't. Cole?
yeah.
Cole, can you pick somebody to help me with 1B2? Who are we pointing at? gonna cut your brother's name again. No, is it Deontay?
Yeah.
Which one do you wanna do? Okay. Is that one a function? And I can walk you through it if you want to know.
Yeah.
Help?
No, it's a function.
Oh, okay. I'll be honest, that definitely sounded a little bit question-like. That sounded slightly unsure. This one is a function because each first number is different. You're guaranteed that you won't have any duplicates. You won't have any different second numbers if you don't even have a duplicate first number. If every first number is different, automatically it's a function. So that one is a function. Do you have somebody you want to call on for the last one? This is why I stick to the dice or something like that, because everybody just, right there. Okay, go ahead, on the last one.
I think that is a function.
Function, maybe. Maybe to back him up. It sounds like he's asking for a little bit of assistance. Are you asking for a little bit of assistance?
Maybe just a tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
Yes, it is a function.
That's a lot of assistance. You just told him the answer. How come?
Because there is no other x value.
Every single x value is different. 0 has only one number, 1 has only one number, 2 has only one number. What would, whoops,
Function.
what would a map look like if it was not a function?
We'd have 2 arrows coming from one number.
Perfect. 2 arrows coming out of one number, which is what I drew on this other one. This would be not a function because it has multiple arrows coming out of an individual number. Okay, good. Honestly, this is actually the whole section. There isn't anything more to it, so I thought maybe we should just do a couple questions together, and then we'll be done for the day. 2, 3, 4, 5. Just, why don't you just put those in your notes? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, question.
I was just confused on like the, like on the last slide, on the one on the right, not a function. I was just confused how it's not a function. 'Cause, like,
So, the number 1, did it make sense when I was talking about like the letter K?
yeah.
Like if you hit the letter K, the only thing you want to happen is the letter K. But if you hit the letter K and then sometimes it gives you a K and sometimes it gives you an M, that's not a function because your input had multiple things happen. On this one, the number 1 ends up having a 3. The second time, the number 1 had a 4. And you know what? I'll probably end the recording here.